Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Let me begin here. First of all, I have a prior engagement that I have to get to, so I'm kind of cramming this episode in a little faster than I'd like. I'm going to do my best again to basically get to every point that I have here in my show notes and a number of other things. First of all, I have to give a shout out to the listeners of this, and it's clearly humbling to, again, have such intelligent people listen to this show, and God bless each and every one of you. Thank you very much for listening. I do appreciate it. And the comments and the feedback on these recent episodes has been incredible. I mean, this is the kind of dialogue that I love. This is the kind of critical thinking dialogue, again, that you're never going to get in a school environment. You just won't. That's why the brick and mortar institutions are the way that they are. And that's why, again, this is really the classroom. It always has been. That's why my Substack, rather, is called The American Classroom. It's designed to be a free thought exercise, dialogue back and forth, trading ideas, and then everybody, again, goes off into their own sections, and then they come back and they share more ideas. I mean, this is exactly what our country is built on. This is exactly how it's supposed to be. So, again, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. And there's a couple other individuals, again, I'm going to give some shout outs to here in a little bit later also. But first of all, again, it's going to seem a little helter-skelter here, but let me go back just a couple of days. First of all, every single time, and yeah, this is all going to be about, Charlie Kirk, quote unquote, and his wife, quote unquote, and a number of other things. But let me hit on a few points here. First of all, very predictably, as one can easily see coming, anytime that Kash Patel engages with Adam Schiff and Adam Schiff engages with Kash Patel, it's going to blow up. And there's going to be fireworks every single time. There's a very logical reason why this is the case. It's because Kash Patel and the FBI have all of the goods on Adam Schiff. And it's not just, again, about the Russia lie and treason and sedition and all of that. That's a big part of it, too. But again, Kash Patel, being inside the government, knows exactly what Adam Schiff was up to many years ago. Allegedly having sex with children, allegedly one of them dying on drugs while he was having sex with it at the Standard Hotel. That, again, is a long-running theory. But that, again, that's one of the reasons why you see that authentic exchange between the two of them shouting at one another. It's because one of them is going to go down. Now, what I did is a lawnmower thought here, but the other day when I was cutting grass, I thought to myself, okay, wait a minute. If you're the proverbial left, so to speak, and you wanted to use a narrative of someone getting killed on the left, you wouldn't even have to fake it, because there are endless people on the left who are very, very bad, and a lot of people already know that. Adam Schiff, of course, being one of them. Very famously, Adam Schiff was also friends with Ed Buck. You may remember Ed Buck. Ed Buck was also a donor to the Clintons and Ted Lieu and, a bunch of other weirdos out there in California. And Ed Buck, of course, is in jail for bringing in homeless men, in particular black men, to have sex with and then, of course, give them drugs. And then one of them died. Again, sort of in the same fashion that Adam Schiff apparently has had this done to him. But one of them died while, again, he was there in the home, and then the home began to smell, and then the police showed up, and then bang. He got pinched for, again, drug paraphernalia and having a dead body in his house, and then later admitted that this was a homeless guy that he was giving drugs to and having sex with. Because that's what your average political donor apparently likes to do. Again, I don't know about you, but I've never been friends with someone like Ed Buck. And I'm not friends with 38 plus people who kill themselves like Hillary Clinton. So, again, think about that for a while. Again, Adam Schiff is dirty. Now, given the fact that everybody knows that, even on the left, why would you not, given the tension between Adam Schiff, President Trump, the way that Adam Schiff, again, has been called out and made fun of constantly, the pencil neck, this, that, and the other, why wouldn't you take him out? Really? Not in some fake staged false flag CGI thing, but actually kill him and then blame Donald Trump, blame Kash Patel, blame the right, and then that way the left could at the very least control that kind of a narrative. You see what I mean? It would be kind of a retribution as to what's going on now to some extent, from a narrative standpoint. But it would be the left doing it to one of their own. Do they have that in them? Of course they do. They're evil. Again, the actions of everything that's gone on this entire time should prove that. So taking out one of their own, not to mention he's Jewish, and at the exact same time, individuals who happen to be of that particular race, in particular Zionists and militant crypto Jews and Zionists, they do that to their own. They'll take out their own all the time, as I've been over in past episodes. And they'll do it to make a point, and then replace that person with someone else who's maybe drawing a little less attention or is a little less known, but they're not as much of a firebrand, and even so, they would use that entire situation to their own advantage, so they would think. So keep that in mind going forward, because that's a possibility. Now, another lawnmower thought, and I'm not the only one who's had this one, which is actually fantastic. In fact, when I got done cutting the grass, I went back to the computer here, and I got into the comments section, and one of the individuals who listens to the show, they know who they are, thank you for saying it, you had the exact same thought that I did, which is, again, great minds think alike, and we're on the same page, but this entire operation, why wouldn't it be used to take down Netanyahu? He's very well known. Everyone across the world knows him. The number of people who don't like him is growing by the day. He immediately took to Fox News after the Charlie Kirk event, and again, immediately started saying how much he loves him and this, that, and the other. And then all of this talk again about offering him money, millions of dollars, over 100 million plus, XYZ. He invited Charlie over to Israel. Charlie declined, whatever else. Again, that almost makes it sound as if Netanyahu's being set up to get knocked down. Because if the first arrest is going to shock the world, as again we've kind of been told and it has been theorized for a very long time, wouldn't taking Netanyahu down do a great deal to wake people up? That, oh, look, Israel isn't necessarily our greatest ally, and look, they took out Charlie Kirk, and oh, look, we have the paperwork and the communications proving that Netanyahu was responsible for this. If they presented that in some form or fashion to the American public, in particular if it was truthful, that would be awfully damning, and that would wake up people on both sides of the proverbial political aisle. It would be something that a great deal of people wouldn't even see coming. But would they be upset about it? The people on the left yelling Free Palestine wouldn't be upset about it. They'd love it. If it happened on Donald Trump's watch, that would shock the people on the right. And all these so-called supporters and everything else. It would shock them too. I bet the trips to Israel would slow down. I bet the money to Israel would slow down. If not stop dead in its tracks. I think that this is, again, a very plausible angle. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just looking at all these different angles, analyzing much of what you're analyzing too. I mean, hell, you have Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly on each other's shows talking about Netanyahu and what a dirtbag he is. And endless people are talking about how Charlie Kirk has openly apparently said that Netanyahu's a dirtbag. Isn't that interesting? Now, the mainstream media is not saying anything about it because they're completely controlled, and we know that. Not saying these other people aren't controlled, they probably are to some extent, but they're at least saying things that we've been saying for a very long time, but they're at least getting it out there, and they're getting more views and listens and the whole thing than certainly the mainstream media is. So that's another angle and another, I mean, hell, it's a straight up theory. But again, consider that, because I think that that's something that could very well happen. Let me see here. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, the whole business of the Daily Wire, okay, and those weirdos, sliding into TPUSA and whatever else. It's all Israeli. All of it. None of it is natural. TPUSA is not natural. Charlie Kirk's existence there was not natural. It was all scripted. And Ben Shapiro and those two other guys, whatever his name is, Knowles and Walsh, those guys showing up, donating $1 million, and just sort of sitting there and looking stoic like, what's going on here? This seems odd. Those guys are controlled too. And I don't think they're bright enough to understand that we are out here seeing what's really going on. I mean, again, Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro, I don't listen to them ever. I mean, ever. But there are a number of young people who do, unfortunately. And they would do it, I think, rather well to listen to somebody else. But, that's just my 2 cents. Either way, once they start to break away from those individuals, that's where the real truth exists. Because again, all of that is staged and all of that is coordinated. They're making it sound like they were all friends. When it was, 4 days before the alleged event, when Charlie Kirk had on Ben Shapiro on his show or each other's show, and they're talking to one another, and Charlie Kirk's questioning Ben Shapiro about Israel's influence in XYZ, and Ben Shapiro has a look on his face like, what are you doing? You're going off script. What the hell is happening? Again, maybe this is a giant honey trap to catch a number of different people. It's possible. I'm just, again, throwing it out there. Yeah. So I just find all of that to be unnatural. And I'm going to keep using that word because, again, it is unnatural. Now, here's what I want to say next and get into next. I have another Substack that I just put together, and it is based on a document that was sent my way. And I want to give a shout out to the individual who sent this to me. This is sent to me by a follower and a listener of the show. They are on X, and they go by predominantly Bavarian Phenotype at Banned by Jeets. Awesome handle. And they sent me a document here in the private chat that is titled by a Miles Mathis, "The Murder of Charlie Kirk was, of course, staged." It's 17 pages long, 18 pages long, if I'm not mistaken, 17, 18, somewhere in there. And it is amazing. It really is. This particular individual goes through the familial lineage of Charlie Kirk, his alleged wife, and this shooter, quote unquote, who doesn't appear to really be a shooter in the slightest, because too many unanswered questions exist. Again, you even have the likes of Ryan Matta on X questioning the whole thing. He apparently has this giant timeline that he's running down, and he's going, this doesn't match up, this doesn't match up. These people are getting this story wrong. How did the gun get there in the first place? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's incredible. But this particular document, again, not only goes through the geographic area of Utah and other people who are there and around there, and then the actual stage shooting itself, but the nature of false flags in general, and more specifically, the family lineage. And one of the major points, and I want to hone in on this just kind of as a summary point to the document. Well, first of all, before I do that, let me say this. Everybody needs to read this PDF, this 17-page PDF. It is on my website, it's on the American Classroom Substack also. But it's on my website, AmericanEducationFM.com, under the Government Documents tab, and it's Government Document number 66. So scroll all the way to the bottom of that list, and it's right there, and the PDF is right there. Some of the summary points of this, I would say from page 1 through page 5, is that the name Kirk is not widely found when it comes to, again, his family lineage, certainly his immediate family and the names of his parents. And the author has a difficult time honing in on who exactly his parents are, where they are from, as the story has been told. Now, again, he also mentions very obviously that Charlie Kirk's upbringing, so to speak, is highly suspicious. It's even been suggested again, has he always been CIA or Mossad? That's highly possible. Because again, if anybody looks up any regular American citizen's lineage to some extent, you can find it. You can find their address, you can find their parents, you can find out where they went to school, With just a few other clicks, you can find other things. But again, looking at it from another angle, as even the previous Substack laid out, sleight of hand that I wrote the other day, and the Rambo and Friends guys talking about, again, this underground military operation, of course, and the underground military that exists. Why would you not create a false individual? I'm not saying that Charlie Kirk was created for necessarily good reasons. It's quite possible he was again fabricated for very bad reasons, basically. Certainly one of those theories bouncing around, and it makes sense, is that he was designed specifically and groomed to usher in a lukewarm version of Christianity. I'll go so far as to say a Judeo-Christian / Jewish version of Christianity. In fact, I have one audio clip that I want to play in this episode. It'll be the only one that I play, but it's important because this particular audio clip is a prime example of what the mainstream media is not playing for you. They're all saying Charlie was never divisive. Charlie, never talked down to people. He never made fun of people. He never did this. He never did that. If you've ever watched any of his full-blown stage performances, you'll know that that's not true. He was remarkably insulting to a great deal of people on both sides of the proverbial aisle, politically speaking. He was also remarkably hostile towards Christians who knew more than he did. I mean, again, his entire approach to the public was very Ben Shapiro-y, if you catch my drift. He talked quick, he memorized lines, he knew particular things, and when he didn't, you could see it in his face, on video, and even again, in his intonation and the way that his voice would sound, that he had basically been caught, that there is a particular line of questioning or information that he does not have fully. And again, you can see it in a person's face. It's like they've just smelled a fart or something. I mean, it's just their face scrunches up and whatever, like that very famous clip of the veteran talking to him about 9/11. And he goes, "Jews did 9/11, Charlie." And he goes, what? It's like he's never even heard that. And then he immediately retorts back with, "Well, who were the hijackers then? Who were the hijackers of the airplanes?" Joke's on both of them. There were no airplanes nor hijackers. But with that aside, you can see it in his face that he had just come across a concept that he hasn't even considered. And I believe that. I believe that Charlie Kirk had no idea who was actually behind 9/11. The problem, too, is that when people knew the Talmud more than Charlie Kirk and approached Charlie Kirk about it, Charlie would get very, very quiet and sit there. And that was highly suspicious, too, but also very indicative of somebody who didn't know what they were actually hearing was, in fact, a fact. Now, here's the audio clip. It's 4 minutes and 40 seconds long. And Elon Musk actually put this out. And the video has a caption at the top and a caption at the bottom. The bottom is all the subtitles. But at the top, it literally says this, and again, it's done to twist your mind and soften your mind on the business of Christianity, specifically the topic of homosexuality. It was titled, "Charlie Kirk Takes Down Anti-Gay Extremist." You can look this up. This is on Elon Musk's X account on September 15th. I'm going to play the whole thing. It's indoors. Charlie Kirk is on stage, and I want you to pay attention again to his intonation and how very sharply Charlie gets offended and then attempts to twist it against a guy who knows more about this than he does. And the Christian asking the question isn't backing down. But again, what does Charlie do, and then how does Charlie end the exchange? So give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, Mr. Kirk, thanks for coming out tonight. I got a question for you real quick. Up until about 5 years ago when gay marriage was legalized nationwide, the conservative movement has been explicitly pro-traditional family. Now, both you and your organization advocate for the acceptance of anti-Christian, immoral lifestyles like homosexuality and transsexuality, going as far to invite drag queens like Lady MAGA to your events. It seems to me and anyone who's paying attention that conservatives just believe whatever liberals believed 5 years ago. Right now, there's a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and... Oh, excuse me. Don't show off.
Go back to your notes. That's probably where you saved it. You gotta push double tap and then go over.
Right now, there is a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and rebranding pedophiles as minor attracted persons. 5 years from now, will you be promoting child drag queen shows? Will child abuse become part of the conservative platform?
Boy, that's a slippery slope fallacy if I've ever seen one. First of all, I've never invited a drag queen to come to any Turning Point USA event. I was at Politicon, and an individual by the name of Lady MAGA came up, and I took a picture, and she walked away. Secondly, let me ask you a question. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes, sir.
So are you a proud Trump supporter?
Of course.
So are you sickened that he had a gay man speak at his convention?
Yes.
Then you're not a Trump supporter, my friend. Thank you very much. Let me ask you another question. Should he return the money of Peter Thiel, an openly gay man who supports his campaign?
No, if it helps him strategically,
okay.
Sure, he can.
Should he stop talking to Tammy Bruce, who's an open lesbian that's a Fox News contributor?
If it's affecting his ideas, then probably, yeah.
Okay, so you say you're a Trump supporter, yet you have all these issues and these disagreements with him. Let me be very clear about my position. My personal position, I'm a Christian first and foremost, then an American, then a constitutionalist, then a conservative, in that order. I believe marriage, biblically, if we want to have a biblical and theological discussion as articulated in the greatest book ever to exist in the history of the world, the Holy Bible. Marriage in the Holy Bible is one man, one woman. I also do not believe in the sort of rhetoric that some people engage in, that all of a sudden that they say there's no place for gay people in the conservative movement. I do not believe that. And let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question then?
Sure, go for it.
So, the American family, liberty, freedom, the Constitution, our history, veterans, that's what we're conserving. I'll get to you later, though. Don't worry. So let me ask you a question. What if you had your way? What would you do with gay people in America?
What would I do with them?
Yeah, because they're not allowed in the conservative movement. So would you just kick them out anytime they show up at a Republican Party? If you were in charge, what would you say? You can't be part of the Republican Party.
If somebody is advocating for being openly homosexual, yeah, they should not be part of the conservative movement.
So I just want to go through the list. Guy Benson, no place in the conservative movement. Dave Rubin, no place in the conservative movement. Peter Thiel, no place in the conservative movement. So that just to go down the list.
If they're supporting open homosexuality.
So
yeah, no.
I'm going to ask a very respectful question, as respectfully as I can. What does what they do in their private life concern you so much that you have to go up in front of a crowd? And
it is against God. That is.
So let me ask
Are you a
question.
Christian or not?
Do we live in a theocracy? Yes or no? No. Do we live in a theocracy?
You said you're a Christian.
I am a Christian. And do you know what? And guess what? I will say this. Part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual. It also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs, so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
It's a perfect example, I think, of exactly what Charlie Kirk did. And he did that consistently. I'm being fair here. He did that a lot, all of the time, as a matter of fact, in almost all of his events. In particular, again, like in that situation, when an individual who is a Christian conservative knows more than he does and brings up a very valid point. And then you can hear Kirk immediately, of course, mock him when he loses his spot on his cell phone. And he gets some people to laugh. So he's instantly ridiculing and demeaning, and he's doing all of that. And then once he gets his question back up, he asks him again point blank, is this the problem with conservatism? And do you see this getting worse with time as long as Christians continue to accept this kind of behavior? Whether they're doing it for votes or they're just doing it again to be, I don't know, politically correct or whatever it is. To water down real Christianity, I mean, it's a valid point that the guy is asking Charlie Kirk, but that's not what Charlie Kirk can answer. Because again, he's not that old, number one. He's not entirely well read. Speaking of books, by the way, isn't it interesting again that he got all these book deals out of nowhere, millions of dollars? That's not natural either. But at the same time, Charlie Kirk twists it into this guy thinks that if you're gay, you can't be a conservative, or if you're gay, you can't be around conservatives, or something along those lines. That's not what he was saying, clearly. It's obvious what the guy was asking. Is this going to get worse if you do not basically highlight how the left works its way into the right? And again, how Judeo-Christian gets made up as a term and then gets blended in with one another. And then all of a sudden, if you disagree with it, well, then there's something wrong with you. Therein lies the issue here. But again, the way in which Charlie Kirk could twist a very simple question and throw it back at somebody. It would be like if I looked at him and I'd say, Charlie, where did you buy your suit? He would turn around and look at me and go, okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you think McDonald's is real? And I'd be like, well, I mean, I asked you about your suit, not McDonald's. You know, are you feeling all right? I mean, that's the absurdity of what happens when you can't answer a direct question. You evade, you psychologically move around, and then he did something which didn't work necessarily to Charlie Kirk's advantage. He tried to win over the crowd, and the crowd was split. There were boos and there were cheers. Now, given that exchange, it's difficult to understand who's booing what and who's cheering what. It's a bit confusing. But either way, it's divided. And then Charlie turns in his stool and he looks at the crowd and he says all of the evangelical talking points that an evangelist would say, who's trying to again mold the minds of American youth and quote-unquote conservative youth. This is why these people on these stages and on television are dangerous. They are dangerous because they are there on purpose. They are controlled. That's why they are there. They told the truth, they wouldn't be there because the truth isn't allowed on those platforms. If you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but on a stage, you'll either get shot or you won't be invited or you'll never be asked back ever again. It's like that famous exchange between Jordan Peterson and a guy who was again attending one of his lectures and was talking to him about Solzhenitsyn and how Solzhenitsyn's one of his last books had to do everything with Jews in Russia and what they had been doing and Bolshevism and the whole thing. And he has a copy of the book in his hands and he walks up to the stage, he puts it on the stage. Jordan Peterson walks over, grabs it, and then he starts asking him. And Jordan Peterson straight up looks at the guy and goes, I'm not going to touch that one. And he walks away. That's not what a thinking person does. That's what a person does when they've been told that there's a line that they are not allowed to cross. And that's a controlled person. So, given that fact, that again, by all accounts here, these individuals are primarily controlled to some extent, Charlie Kirk is no different, and neither is his so-called wife. That leads me to the Substack article now. Full shout out again to Predominantly Bavarian Phenotype for sending this my way. This again is a 17-page PDF laying out the lineage of Charlie Kirk and how his family history is very difficult to pin down. However, the individual again hones in on last names and geographic locations, and as it turns out, Charlie Kirk is probably Jewish, as is his wife. Now, at this point, in this stage of the game, that shouldn't shock anybody. But, again, this individual is very keen on that and of course points in on the family lineage aspect of all of this and how, again, for people like you and me, it's not very difficult to figure out where we come from and all of that stuff. Even, again, a basic internet search can hone in on your previous and current address. But with that said, not so with Charlie Kirk and his so-called wife, Erica, whose last name, let me get her last name here real quick. Franziv, if I'm saying that right? Franziv? Frantzve. And again, they play the Roman Catholic, Christian, what have you. They play that identity. But they got married in Jerusalem, in Israel, and that seems odd. They also, as the author points out, openly practice the Sabbath. But do Christians do that, or do Jews? So again, it's rather obvious that they are not who they say they are. And there again, in lies a number of other issues, which I bring up very quickly in the article. And I just want to hit on a few, because I hadn't made mention of this, I don't think, on the show yet. When I saw a clip the other day of when Charlie Kirk was on his own show on Real America's Voice with his quote-unquote wife, which, by the way, as I said in a previous episode, many of these relationships are arranged. It's not even that they are married. It's not even that their children are really their own children. You don't have any proof of that, neither do I. All I have is a game of telephone and people on TV telling a story. Now, if you think about it that way, well, that's the case with everybody, because we don't know who these people are. I've never met them, even if I have, whatever. I mean, or even if I did, I haven't met them, but whatever. Point is that just because someone tells you something doesn't make it true. People can say that about me all they'd like. That's fine. Think for yourself then for the first time, maybe. But even so, regarding their show, she comes out and they have prearranged questions to ask. And very selfishly, of course, like a lot of couples do on podcasts, it's about their relationship. Where did you meet? What are your likes and dislikes? And blah, blah, blah. It's just very, it's self-absorbed. But at the exact same time, she kind of lets something slip, which I immediately went, wait a second. That's not something that would be something that someone would forget. And she immediately leans back in her chair and she kind of gets a nervous smile on her face like she had in that entire 15, 16-minute speech, which was highly unusual. And the author gets into that too. But she says that one of the things that her and Charlie always get confused about are the dates of things. Why would that be confusing to anybody? In particular, if you're in your early 30s, late 20s. Why is that confusing? For a young couple who's allegedly only been married once and has 2 children. And she openly says, we always get birthdays mixed up in our wedding date and our anniversary, and which is the same day, and everything else. And again, I heard her say that, and I thought to myself, why is that hard for you to remember? Elderly couples remember that. Again, parents sometimes forget the exact number day of their birthday, of their child's birthday when they're older, but they know the month generally. So, I mean, again, if you're in your late 20s, early 30s, why is that so difficult for you to remember? It would be difficult to remember, as I say in the article, because you're having to memorize a script. It's not natural. If it were natural, it'd be easy to remember, but if it's not, then it's more difficult. As old Judge Judy likes to say, and she's right, when you tell the truth, you don't need a good memory. But when you're lying, remembering all of the lies, yeah, that can be hard to remember, and that can be difficult. So I thought that was odd. There was that. So there was that aspect of it. There also, of course, had to do everything with their family photographs. I've never found their family photographs to be natural, because in every shot, you don't see the faces of these children. You just don't see them. Now, again, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say I have no proof that these are, in fact, their children. Or, if they are, and you are hiding their identities in every single photograph, and I mean every single photograph, they put hats on their kids and then turn their faces away. They never show their faces. The most you'll see is perhaps a side profile, usually not. Sometimes of the youngest baby boy, but that's it. Beyond that, why else would you again hide their faces? You would hide them potentially because, of course, they're not your children, and somebody else will recognize them as maybe looking like them. That's possible. There's also this angle, which is they knew that this event would be staged to take Kirk off of the map, and they don't want their children's identity out there after the fact for the purposes of, again, protection. My point is the photographs look scripted. The photographs look staged. So why wouldn't the event? And then I bring up I would hope would be an obvious point. Why isn't it that Elon Musk never hides his kid's face? He even brought him into the Oval Office, for God's sakes. Had him on camera all of the time. Vivek Ramaswamy's kids running around on stage as he gives a talk in Ohio, not hiding their faces. J.D. Vance, same thing. Isn't that odd? But for some reason, it's Charlie Kirk and his wife Erica, quote unquote. I just think that that's odd. It's not natural. So here's, again, I'm going to read just a few particular points out of this article, but I'm telling you, you got to read the whole thing because it's a mind bender. But again, if you've read things like Bloodlines of the Illuminati, then reading this is in the same ballpark. It's the exact same kind of stuff. So here's what this Miles individual says. He says, quote, "How am I one of very few saying this was staged? It should be the default assumption of any current event. Actually, Alex Jones admitted in his broadcast today that many on the ground in Utah said the murder looked staged, even while he was selling the event as real. Kinda weird. It's not really advisable to say the event was staged while you're selling it as real, though it does help me here." And again, he's right. He raises a good point. The Alex Jones point is valid too, but he raises a point that you've even heard, come from me on the show here, which is this. And again, I was even slightly guilty of it myself regarding this particular issue because I was just watching, again, the reactions of people, and it was the reactions of people that gave this away for basically to me immediately, which is you have to start with, in your mind, you're watching something that isn't real. And then you have to evidence your way out of that wavelength of thought if you can. And then you balance the evidence. Let me give you again another quick example, and you've seen video of this already because I certainly put it on the war videos, and anybody can watch this. There's, of course, the video of the guy taking the camera down, and then it appears taking the camera apart, if in fact it was a camera, behind Charlie Kirk, again on that, underneath that tent. But the university, or whoever it is that's controlling that area, never really taped it off. In fact, they completely changed the ground of where he was actually giving his talk. They've completely unearthed that ground, repaved over it, and they're even repaving over parts of the grass. They've completely deconstructed the crime scene. And yet, if you watch Fox News or any other local news channel, when it comes to a crime scene, they tape off the crime scene, a real crime scene, sometimes hundreds and hundreds of yards back, in an absolute circumference around the middle of the actual crime scene. Not so in this case. Again, you had people standing around, which again, this particular author goes into it and says, who's to say that all of those people weren't in on it? That this entire thing, again, was manufactured. Like I said in the last episode, wouldn't you usher those people out of a crime scene where a shooting takes place? Are they not afraid that there would be more shooting? It's just like, again, exit stage left, the curtain drops, and then everybody's just mingling their way out of the theater. It's beyond strange. The author goes on and says the intel agencies took over the media decades ago. All media has been managed from the founding of our country. See my paper on Ben Franklin. But after Watergate, the CIA took over all media completely, I can read, in that it has been called Operation Mockingbird. They now manufacture all the news every day, including multiple major tragedies each week as part of Operation Chaos. Not a conspiracy theory, they admit it. See Wikipedia, which has a page on it, and Operation COINTELPRO, which merged in the 1960s. They pretend these operations and projects ended at some point, but of course they didn't. They just expanded and accelerated. Just look around you. Do you believe Operation Chaos ended? And again, it keeps going on and going on. It again talks about the infiltration of Christianity and Christian, quote-unquote, organizations into the zeitgeist of the American thought, certainly among youth, to get them to become more Christians while not knowing what real Christianity is about, certainly what Jesus is about. Again, look at the number of people who use the Scofield Bible terminology and definition of Judeo-Christian. It's sickening. It goes on here specifically now about his wife. Charlie Kirk's alleged wife, Erica Lane Kirk, is née Franziv, if that's how you say it, which name is commonly Jewish, though they sell her as originally Catholic, now Calvary. Says also no mention of her parents on her wiki page, which is a red flag. You may have noticed that Erica is not on Charlie's Insta Checkmate page. Why not? His first relative should be his wife. And then they say, let's see what Intellus has to say about it. Also, no link to an Erica Kirk or Franziv, though we have since come to believe that isn't our Charlie Kirk anyway. Again, why love Israel so much? I thought Jesus was born in Galilee. I thought that's what it was called. But, yeah. And again, the celebration of the Sabbath stuff is beyond strange. Now, again, when it comes to the actual shooting, so to speak, in the aftermath, here's what they said. They said, quote, also strange that Kirk was flown out on Air Force Two. Was he really that important and connected? How? I don't understand how a 31-year-old talking head merited this kind of response. It's unnatural, is it not? It's unnatural. There have been more well-known individuals who have passed, and Air Force Two doesn't go and get them. It says next we come to the video, which is as fishy as everything else. To start with, it's a snuff film. So why are these things being released same day? That used to be forbidden. Shouldn't the family be notified before the world watches a quart of blood squirt from his neck? It is CGI, but still. And again, I have to tell you, that was one of the first thoughts that went through my mind also with the blood, again, shooting out. Because tagged to one of the videos where you could see that, the person immediately said, this is AI. That was the very first video I saw of the shooting. It was a post below it and it said, this is so AI, it's ridiculous. Again, I'm not one to say one way or another. I'm just saying. It says you should be very suspicious. Do you want your kids watching this? What is stopping them? You shouldn't be watching it either, since it is traumatizing out of course, that is the whole point. But of course, they said that is the whole point. It is the visible acceleration of Operation Chaos, and the CIA, Department of Homeland Security, or whoever has decided that is the way it is going to be from now on. Your remaining sensibilities are going to be obliterated by a constant stream of CGI snuff films, as all your fake heroes have their heads explode. If you choose not to click on them, they will come to your house personally and project them on your walls and ceilings. Again, this is one of the aspects of social media, is the image gets out instantly and instantly on tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people's cell phone devices. Again, he even goes on and goes in further into the actual event and a number of other things. He says, today we're getting a lot of indication that the crowd was planted, since they were chanting "kill Kirk," quote unquote, and things like that. Kirk just happened to be answering a question about shooting when he was shot. Alex Jones has admitted it, though he is spinning it as Kirk being killed by the deep state. It is far more logical to read it as what it was, staged. Not as staged without the knowledge of Kirk, but as in staged with the knowledge and participation of Kirk, who faked his death to go deeper into intelligence. They also planted people to cheer afterwards to make liberals, quote unquote, look bad. Remember, this took place in Orem, Utah, a very spooky place. This Utah Valley University started out as an offshoot of Brigham Young in Provo, but later moved to Orem. It didn't become a university until 2008. It grew like wildfire and now has about 46,000 students, the largest in Utah. As with other universities, the CIA has been very busy there. UVU's theater program partners with Sundance, a big red flag. It is heavily promoted by the Kennedy Center, ditto. It goes on, it says, Orem and UVU are heavily Mormon. I remind you, and the Mormons are philo-Semitic, meaning they like Jews. Why? Because LDS was founded by crypto-Jews. Joseph Smith's mother was Lucy Mack, and the Macks were and are Jews. They still run Las Vegas, as we saw here. And then again, in this article, which is why you got to download this even for your own records, in the PDF article, there are endless hyperlinks to other articles that this person has written, including one about Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Supreme Court Justice, and how she basically comes from nowhere. Same thing with, again, the Trump shooting. He's got an entire article on that too. It's 20 some odd pages long, at least. He went on and said, so it's no coincidence this event was run in Orem. If you will remember, the Robbie Parker from the Sandy Hook event was also from Orem, Utah. Not a coincidence. Also not a coincidence. He was the guy who was laughing before addressing the media about his daughter getting killed. Because, that's how you behave when your child's been murdered. Again, it goes into the family lineage thing, all of it, much, much deeper. And then, of course, he gets into the speech of Erica Kirk, quote unquote. He says the following, Erica made a 15-minute speech today after watching her husband have his neck blown off less than 48 hours ago. These people are shameless, as we know. She even took the time to plug the Oregon Ducks, and she did. That's why, or he says, that's what you would do, right? If your husband just got murdered in such a terrifying fashion, give a long public speech and pepper it with stuff like "Go Ducks." He goes on and says, if you aren't sick, you don't have a stomach. I guess the GoFundMe page is next. And then he retroactively went back and typed in added September 13th. Guess what? I was right. Though it is give, send, go, not GoFundMe. And the Kirk family has already raised $3 million, though they were already millionaires. Why would anyone be giving money to millionaires? He was earning $500,000 a year from TPUSA, not including appearance fees, and was said by Yahoo to be worth above $12 million. I've heard $30 million, frankly. They go on and say way above, I would guess. Yeah, possibly 30 plus. He goes on and says, and you can be sure Erica will be cashing out a huge life insurance policy. Will we get a figure for that? Doubtful. Also notice the title at the link to the New York Post as Turning Point USA sees upward of 18,000 new chapter requests overnight. There's apparently some numerology stuck in with that also. Again, he goes into the entire gun breakdown, the back and forth stories. Fake blood is a real thing. That can easily be faked. The whole thing. He goes on from September 14th. He says, more evidence confirming that this was fake comes in daily, though the mainstream and alternative presses are desperately trying to spin it. Turns out Tyler Robinson was a top student with a near genius IQ, like Tim McVeigh, and many others we have outed. In other words, a special forces candidate. He was a 4.0 GPA, scored a 34 on his ACT, 36 in reading, which is way above 1%. That's like a 1550 on your SAT. A 36 in reading is a perfect score, top 0.01%. The media is trying to spin this as lost potential. What went wrong? But it was easier to read it like I am. Nothing went wrong. Again, goes into more of the history, what's likely for those two individuals, and even gets down to the simple fact, potentially, that these two guys are related. That Charlie Kirk and this Tyler Robinson are in fact cousins by lineage. Again, it's a script. You're watching for one reason or another, or multiple reasons all at once, like some of the scenarios that potentially I brought up earlier as this being a trap for Netanyahu. It's quite possible that that's what this was designed for. It's quite elaborate, but again, it's interesting. I was also sent these particular posts from truth_teller at truth_teller TM on X, and they said the following. So Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, allegedly owns a ministry that works with the United States military in Romania. The area in Romania where she was operating this ministry had a bunch of local people accusing these evangelical ministers of kidnapping children and trafficking them out of the country. These children were being found in the UK, Israel, and elsewhere, and were also being sent to undisclosed private islands. Imagine they. They then said, update, every accusation is in fact a confession. Modern-day slavery in Romania. The Global Slavery Index shows that Romania, with 86,000 trafficking victims, has one of the highest rates of modern-day slavery in Eastern Europe, and most victims experience sexual exploitation. Trafficking in the UK. Trafficking victims from Romania frequently undergo exploitation in the United Kingdom. In fact, around 3/4 of women trafficked to the UK come from Romania, and the majority end up in the sex trade. And then they said finally, and yet the UK seeks to charge Andrew Tate, with human trafficking. Such a law-abiding country and member of the EU, NATO, and UN. Hashtag Romania, hashtag free the Tates. Okay. Either way, human trafficking in Romania, there's a particular article here kind of briefly describing that. Another image titled The White Collar Mafia, prosecutors of the Directorate for Investigating Organized Crime and Terrorism, Romania, on the other side of justice. And it's got their names and their titles and the whole thing. Then you have this. You have the X account titled Israel Heritage Foundation. On September 15th, they put out this letter. The post itself says the following. Chief Rabbi David Yosef of Israel sent a condolence letter to Charlie Kirk's family, praising him as a true friend of the Jewish people and condemning his murder as vile and cruel. Rabbi Yosef offered comfort in Kirk's legacy and concluded with a blessing, quote, may God grant you and your family the strength to overcome this great tragedy and to continue his legacy for future generations at Charlie Kirk 11. There's just one problem. The letter is dated September 2nd of 2025, 8 days before he was allegedly shot. Again, if you're a chief rabbi in Israel, you'd get the dates correct. And what complicates this, or actually I should say compounds the fraud, is Benjamin Netanyahu reposted this, which means did he not pay attention to the date either? and just blindly repost it? Or are they mocking everybody thinking that no one's going to catch it? Now, I threw the letter into an AI system to see if it was real, including the date. And it said that the letter was in fact real, but then of course it says you'd actually have to ask Chief Rabbi David Yosef if in fact he wrote this, even though it says that he did, and even though it's being put out there like he did, and even though the Prime Minister of Israel is reposting it like it's real. Why would you not get the date correct? This is what happens in moments like this when people again think about what's actually happening. People again have openly stated consistently, we're living in a simulation. This is a simulation, it's a simulation. To a great deal of extent, the simulation exists with everything that involves the media and politics. I am not a simulation, I'm a real person. Always have been, thank God. But so are other people. The simulated aspect comes in when people plug in. And they plug into electronics, the Matrix, and the whole thing. Just like in the movie The Matrix, what the bad guys didn't count on was that some of the people in the Matrix would wake up, snap out of it, and then turn around and then point it out to more people who are still in the Matrix and try to tell people that what you are in right now and what you are doing and what you are paying attention to and the people you hang out with and the useless conversations you have and the shit that you waste your money on and everything else, that all of that is the Matrix, that's not the real world. The real world is you by yourself in a grass field taking a nap in the sun. That's real. You and Jesus. I mean, that's it. That's as real as it gets. All the electronic bullshit, all of that again amplifies the Matrix, and it's showing people, at least we can see it, how many people, again, are being sucked in to all of this and believing it and buying it. Which, again, goes right back to things like ritualistic trauma. And this is where the education business comes into play specifically regarding this event. There have been endless, too many to count, endless K-12 university school districts that after this event did not put out memos to any of their staff members simply saying, hey, don't talk about this with your students, or hey, if you do talk about this, be very careful because your job could be on the line. Or even, hey, if students are concerned about this and they need to see a counselor or they need to talk with somebody or blah, 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 then please make that available to them. Those memos didn't go out. I'm not saying that they didn't in some school districts or some universities. I'm certain they had to have. Somebody has their head on their shoulders. But regardless of which approach they took, whether they put a memo out warning people or they didn't, they're probably still both brainwashed into believing that the thing happened the way that it went down. And as a result of that, it's traumatized youth of all ages. I mean, this is a younger generation's Challenger explosion, and that was fake. But instead of a teacher rolling in a television on a cart and hooking it up to the cable or bending the antenna wires so that you can watch the Challenger take off and then explode and then watch that whole, fake story roll out, instead of doing that, all they have to do is reach into their pocket and pull out their cell phone. It's too easy to ritualistically traumatize people now. It's too easy to engage in snuff propaganda and emotionalism. It's too easy. And when it's that easy on purpose, because it's designed, again, to move people, to create policy, to get people to believe things at face value and not think. Let me give you another example. I think this happened in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, here we go. Breaking. Students at Thurston High School in Springfield, Oregon walk out in protest of teacher Bobby Nove posting quote-unquote good while referring rather, to Charlie Kirk's assassination. This was one of the teachers on our list. This David Medina guy said on X. Young people are taking a stand across America and are done being silent. This is beautiful. Keep it going. And then again, just a news brief about it. I find that fascinating because there are 1,000 reasons to leave the public school system, in particular as high school students, when you can read and write. Again, the Matrix is designed to trap these people into these brick and mortar environments so that they never leave. But the only time that they leave is when what? When they want to protest a political event. How about you just leave, period? Go home, enroll online. You're in school theoretically for about 2 hours a day, and then you have the rest of your day. And you'll graduate faster than someone who's spending 8 hours a day at a brick and mortar building 5 days a week, 180 days a year. These people don't know this. They don't know. That's why you can't say brainwashing isn't real. The system is designed to keep them asleep. The system is designed to keep them socially engineered and then react the way that they react, so that when something takes place that is a snuff film that is designed to amp up the amygdala, ramp up emotion, take away any critical thought among those who clearly aren't critically thinking, is it any surprise that these institutions, quote unquote, which that's what they are, still have students attending, still have them rolling out of bed at 5 a.m, putting on their shoes, going to school by 6 a.m, and then again, being there theoretically all day. For what? It's not a way to live. It's not a healthy way to live, because then you've got to, again, go into a building and into a room with a teacher who may or may not know what the hell they're talking about. And then you've got to listen to their opinions all day long. And I have to tell you, that's one of the stories that's coming out of all of this. This is one of the rewards that's come out of this event, is you have individuals, again, seeing the kinds of people that are in those quote-unquote education positions. And you have endless teachers now, of course, who have been fired, endless teachers who have been suspended, endless teachers who have been forced to apologize. You have even teachers who are being protected. There's one teacher, apparently, who's being protected by a couple of police officers in a school because of what this individual said about the event. A Joe Sedlick. Let's see, Las Vegas. He's a Las Vegas, I believe, special education teacher. He said the following, middle school education, said the following: I watched the video over and over like 50 times by now, and not the far away video, the close-up video. Love every fraction of a second of it, and it gets better with every watch. It's pretty specific. I mean, it's disturbing, but even they're being fooled. You talk about multidimensional. I mean, again, you're fooling the foolish. And the foolish are being fooled, and they're so foolish they don't even know it. They're losing their jobs literally over nothing. They're being attacked literally over nothing. It's over, again, the perception of an event, a snuff film. A person here took a picture from the hallway outside of this person's classroom, and there's two armed police officers sitting in chairs outside protecting them. That also seems a bit unnatural, does it not? But again, even based on that individual's behavior, people are openly homeschooling. Here's a post about it on X. It says, Principal Susie Harrison sent this email Monday, September 15th. There was no school today, a scheduled day off. My child will not attend classes at this school any longer and will happily be homeschooled due to Harrison's and CCSD's slow and feckless leadership. Joe Sedlick. And it says here, Sig Roche, Ragosh, I don't know, middle school, North Pavilion Center, 235 North Pavilion Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. Again, dated September 15th, 2025. This is Susie Harrison Rollins, principal at Sig Rogish Middle School. It says, I want to start off by thanking our students, staff, and families for their support and patience over the last week. District leadership is working to address matters involving recent comments made on social media by district employees, plural. It says, please note, and by the way, even if it's just one teacher in one district, which is highly unlikely, they would still use a plural word there to emphasize that, hey, look, more people have done this, so don't just think it's one person and back off. I mean, it would be used as a deflective tactic. But either way, they said, please know that while I cannot discuss personnel matters, we are following the existing district policies. Additionally, there have been no direct threats to our schools or students in the past week. Students and parents can make reports through the Safe Voice reporting system by calling their phone number 1-833-216-SAFE or through their website safevoicenv.org or downloadable phone app. Well, of course there is. If you have any more questions, please feel free and contact us in the main office, blah, blah, blah. Again, it's amazing. But hey, look, if it takes a staged event to get children and parents to finally wake up about the brainwashed nature of the people who work in these buildings by and large, then good. And if that motivates them to leave permanently and homeschool, then good. Because if they can read and write, they can teach themselves, which means there's no reason they need to be there at all. But this is happening all over the United States. And again, a lot of parents are upset because these memos are not going out to families after an event like this, or even as a staff-wide email as if to say, hey, look, remember the 2024 election and how you all stuck your heads right in your asses after that one? Let's not do that this time. I mean, that's what a leader would do. That's what a leader would write in an email and say, look, this is politically motivated. It's obvious. Don't make a mistake with this. Be polite. Be kind. Don't mock it. You know, students are going to ask you, what do you think about it? What do you feel about it? They're going to egg you on. But again, it's too, what's the word? It's too attracting to people. It's too sweet a taste for people to not comment one way or another. They have to. It's the red button in the room. And someone says, don't press it. It's going to get pressed eventually. Someone's going to press it. Some teacher is going to press it. And they have. And they're losing their jobs left and right. It even ensnared Jimmy Kimmel, apparently. And again, I thought that his comments were actually, I would say, lukewarm compared to other things that he stated in the past, but apparently this was the last straw. Again, no one watches those shows anyway. I don't know who does, but it's clearly, again, and they are CIA outlets that are designed to get people to, again, be radicalized, even through watching some Hollywood so-called comedy show. That's the whole point. But it's amazing. Again, he's been suspended. It'll be interesting to see if he's gone forever, or if the show just disappears completely. But either way, I mean, good riddance to bad rubbish. I don't think anybody's going to miss him at all. Certainly not Colbert. But doesn't that also imply, again, that something else is going on here? I mean, you talk about the individuals at the top of these particular agencies, because it's not even ABC and CBS, for example. It's the people that control them. Because again, you know, those network channels, they're not responsible for broadcasting anything. I mean, there are other companies behind them and above them that are actually responsible for broadcasting. So if you can get some good people in a couple of good positions within those companies that are responsible for actually taking the content that those networks create and then pushing it out to the masses, and you simply say, we're going to take you off because we don't like what's going on in XYZ, you're going to start watching all these left-wing programs just die. I'm fine with it. Just as long as it gets replaced with something that's truthful. Again, if it gets replaced with something that's lukewarm or something that's Fox Newsy, that's not going to help anything either. Again, in the education vein, just very quickly, and just to kind of wrap up here, I mentioned Randy Weingarten again and how she was engaging in some virtual talk or whatever, talking about fascism. Well, only a communist would bring it up so often, as I said in the last episode. She's apparently written a book titled Why Fascists Fear Teachers. And then there's a particular excerpt apparently in Rolling Stone magazine that's titled, let me see here, Why Fascists Hate Critical Thinking. Randy Weingarten's new book, Why Fascists Fear Teachers, reveals why Trump and the right demean teachers, slash school funding, and rewrite history. The exact opposite is the truth. It's the exact opposite. They are communists in the education business. They are the ones that are demeaning the teaching profession because they're all the same now. They're all hard left wing. They don't even hire anybody with the perception of being a conservative or being objective. They'll look at their face just like we can look at their faces, and they know immediately that we are conservatives, and they are, of course, are not, and that's the division. It's like, again, wearing glasses during the movie They Live. It's the same thing. We're wearing the glasses. We can see exactly what message is really being pushed out to people. And at the exact same time, when we take them off, we can see, unfortunately, what other people are forced to see. And then, of course, when it comes to school funding, they're the ones doing the stealing. They're the ones wasting money. And when it comes to rewriting history, communists created rewriting history. They were the ones who created it. So the question is, again, how much is a parent or a child going to tolerate the name calling? The term fascist, if you look it up in the dictionary, it's going to give you an altered definition. Who's behind dictionary definitions? Communists. That's why they change them all the time. That's why they rewrite history. It's amazing. It's an incredible time to be alive. Again, the information acquisition is what I'm trying to say. The information acquisition here is overwhelming. But it is incredible. And the devil overplayed his hand. Because more people, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, they are waking up to this Kirk thing. 100%. Even the people, again, who believe that it was real at face value first, I would encourage them to go back and think about, again, Charlie's, what would you call it? His upbringing. And how you know that his upbringing is unnatural. That an 18-year-old who didn't go to college, doesn't get million-dollar book deals, find himself on a stage making, again, nationwide tours, lecturing at college campuses about XYZ. And then, of course, the way that the media has portrayed him now in his so-called passing. That, too, is unnatural, and it's not honest. But that's because it's deception. And people are being deceived all the time. They just don't want to believe, for some reason, that strangers on their television would ever lie to them. It's a war, ladies and gentlemen, and there's going to be a whole lot more that goes on here. Again, don't rule out a real killing of some kind. Don't rule out more AI, CGI generated events. Don't rule that out either. Keep that in mind moving forward here. But there's a lot of good things happening, and again, it's being done also to draw our attention away from some of those good things happening. Chicago, again, is having illegals be arrested in Chicago. That is underway right now. That's happening. That's a good thing. What's going on in Venezuela? A good thing, I think. Certainly seems like it at face value. So there's good stuff occurring. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening as always. Check out the Substack if you're interested, and definitely, again, give that 17-page PDF a read. It is linked in there, and like I said, it's also on my website under the Government Documents tab at the very bottom of that hyperlinked list. I think it's number 66. No numerology there, it just happened to be that way. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, again, have a great weekend. It's been a hell of a 2 weeks, has it not? And I will catch you on Monday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.